Welcome to our 8th Criminal Defense Google Hangout. In today's Hangout, we will again be talking with West Palm Beach Defense Attorney Andrew D. Stine about Palm Beach Sheriff's Department and local prosecutors and how they'll do almost anything to get drug convictions. We're going to talk to Attorney Stine about how Palm Beach earned that reputation and how having an experienced drug offense lawyer can make all the difference in the outcome of an arrest. My name is Steve, and I'll be your host today. Hi, Andy. How you doing today?
Good afternoon, Steve. I'm doing great, thank you.
Excellent. As I mentioned above, Palm Beach County's developed a reputation for being more than willing to push the envelope when it comes to arresting and prosecuting citizens for drug crimes. Talk to us a little about how and why they've gotten this reputation.
Well, I think that Florida generally over the last 40 to 50 years has been known for unlawful drug trade. There's been movies made about Florida. Comes to mind is the Cocaine Cowboy. Also, Scarface was obviously filmed in Florida. Many other documentaries and Hollywood movies have been filmed in Florida, including South Florida. Regarding the drugs here in South Florida, law enforcement have taken a no-nonsense stance against illegal drugs, including marijuana. And it has evolved through the last 40 to 50 years. And they have gotten more stricter, or they have prosecuted and arrested much more in South Florida than in most other locations. One of the reasons is because obviously we're close to the Gulf of Mexico. We are also outside of many of the islands, the Bahamas, Jamaica. Also, we have many ports of entry. We have the Miami port, we have the Jacksonville port, we have a port of Palm Beach, we have a port in Tampa, we have the port in Panama City. So Florida's loaded with ports where these drugs can infiltrate. There also has been a long history of gangs in South Florida. And those gangs will, in fact, distribute it, sell drugs throughout the South Florida communities. Obviously, to gain, the ability to have resources. So there's many different factors as to why South Florida and Florida has the drug problems that it has today.
So, but tell us a little bit about some of the tactics used by the Palm Beach County Sheriffs when they make arrests.
One of the favorite tactics, which was spoken and or written about in a recent ACLU article, shows that the number one issue for pulling over motorists is not wearing a seatbelt. Not wearing a seatbelt is obviously subjective because the officer could write that in their report that the driver wasn't wearing a seatbelt. That gives them a reason to stop the driver. After that, they make the driver roll down their window, if their window is not rolled down, to ask for their pedigree information, driver's license, insurance, and registration. With that being said, the driver is then exposing the interior of the vehicle and also exposing his or her breath and his or her smell to the officer. And then the officer could, in fact, capitalize on that by saying they smell burning marijuana, or they smell drug use in the vehicle, and then they have the ability to, at that point, get the driver out, the occupants out, and search the vehicle or toss the vehicle looking for unlawful or illegal substances.
Yeah, and I suppose that when the police, they can pull you over for rolling through a stop sign or for a bad taillight, anything they want to do to pull you over, they can make that decision, can't they?
Yes, the Florida traffic code is enormous. Any defects to the vehicle, headlight, tail light, not using a turn signal, not maintaining a single lane, driving too fast for conditions, rolling through a stop sign, allegedly speeding, driving too closely. Believe it or not, I had a motorist get stopped for unlawful use of his horn, which is obviously the device to alert somebody. Somebody was at a green light, they didn't move, he blew the horn, a police officer stopped them and gave him a ticket for unlawful use of the horn. With that being said, he then searched them, allegedly found marijuana. It was one of the one of the issues that was on a motion to suppress. I had a lady stopped many years ago for running over a fire hose. They had a fire hose stretched across the street. She's on a major thoroughfare. She can't stop because the person would rear-end her. She drives over the fire hose, actually on Okeechobee Boulevard in Australian. There's a grass fire in the median, and they stop her, and then they go ahead and they give her a DUI, and then they allegedly find marijuana in her purse. And then we went up on appeal, and driving over a fire hose is de minimis. It's so small that it really doesn't give probable cause to stop. That was our argument. So there's so many ways to get stopped in a vehicle in Florida that it's too numerous to mention in this small hangout.
Right. Yeah, and I suppose it's up to the word of the police, but what do the prosecutors do? What about the prosecutor's behavior at trial if you do get arrested? How does that add to the problem?
In South Florida, specifically more Palm Beach County, Broward, St. Lucie, Martin, Okeechobee, and also Indian River, we see that assistant state attorneys absolutely, along with judges in those counties, take the word of the officer as gold. It might as well been written in the Bible and given to Moses. And why do I say that? Because you could have 10 civilians testify that the light was in fact green. If one officer says the light was red when the vehicle went through it, that's all that judges and assistant state attorneys will concern their fact finding for, and that will be that they will believe the officer over 10 civilian or lay witnesses.
So what are some of the more successful outcomes that an experienced drug defense attorney can help a client achieve, and how do you get those kind of results?
Well, that's a loaded question. For me, I've only had one conviction on trafficking in illegal substances. Every other case that I've had, they've all been found not guilty. And it is it equals probably about 9 to 11 trafficking and drug cases that I've had. The way to beat those cases are to go to jury trial. You must go to jury trial. The assistant state attorney and or the law enforcement officers will not dismiss drug trafficking cases. They take them very serious. It's a 3-year minimum mandatory sentence. It can then be a 7-year, 25-year, or life imprisonment. So and that's day for day, by the way, day for day in jail and or prison, I should say. With that being said, they take these cases very seriously, so you have to have an experienced drug trafficking attorney, a drug trafficking lawyer who have fought these cases in the courtroom, who understands how to pick juries, because trafficking in drugs is just the possession of an illegal substance greater than so many grams or greater than so many pills, more than 4 pills, more than 4 grams, more than a certain amount of marijuana weight-wise. It doesn't mean you're selling it. It doesn't mean you're distributing it. It could be for personal use. And juries understand that. And juries believe that because they realize that somebody may in fact have 5 oxycodone or 5 Percocet for their personal use that they don't have a prescription for. In Florida, under the black letter law, that's trafficking, a 3-year minimum mandatory. But one on a jury realizes that a normal, reasonable person with legitimate injuries, back injuries, other type of injuries to the body, will have 4 or 5 pills that they may have gotten from a friend or they may have bought off the street. So the way to beat the drug trafficking cases is without a doubt by going to trial.
Right. If you've been charged with drug possession or any crime in Palm Beach County, please call criminal defense lawyer Andrew D. Stine at 561-880-4300 or visit the firm at andrewdstein.com. Thanks again for sharing your experience and knowledge with us, Andy. I want to thank everyone for participating today, and I invite our audience to come back and hang out next time when we'll be discussing a new and important topic. Remember, call Stine or do the time. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Steve.
Bye-bye now.